Growth as a recovered dad, growth as a father, growth recovering from pornography, getting freedom in life, growth requires tension.
Welcome, brothers, to today's episode of the Recovered Dad Podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Matthew Sinkovitz. This is my co-host, Yaden Smith. Yaden, welcome, brother. Good to have you here today.
Matt, good to be here again behind the microphone in front of the camera.
Once again. Yes, and welcome to all our faithful listeners. I was just taking a look at the podcast stats yesterday. And,
all 5 million of them?
All 5 million of them, yeah. We're getting a respectable monthly following, and downloads and all that stuff continue to increase. So we want to extend our thanks to those of you that continue regularly. And sounds like maybe there's some value being received from these conversations. So we hope so. And we appreciate you guys continuing to show up.
Absolutely right.
Yes, sir. So kicking things off here a little bit today, Yaden and I were having a conversation. I just got back from the gym. Actually, we got started a couple minutes late here today. I was rushing from the gym. I was like, I'm getting my workout in today. I have a full day. And I rush in the door. I get everything set up for the conversation today. I get to my computer a minute before, and I get this text from Yaden that says, hey, I'm going to be 10 minutes late. I'm like, man, thank God, because I could use a little breather here. And it's so funny. I was going to text you to say I'm running late, but I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm going to make it. So I made it. But I was just coming from the gym. I was having a conversation with Yaden, I think on Monday for the Noble Council call. And I was talking about how, Yaden, your kind of influence on me and just being around other men who are on the growth track and in all areas of their life has really rubbed off for me in a positive way. And I've recently hired a trainer, and I've been really getting focused and dialed on my fitness and my strength training regimen. And we were having a conversation, and Yaden, you mentioned something that I think is a great setup for today's conversation. You were mentioning how you've been lifting, focusing on strength training for many years now. And recently your workouts have been getting harder, even though the weights haven't necessarily been increasing. So talk to us.
Dude. So yeah. And when did you start working with the trainer, Matt?
In January. Yeah.
Right after you and me talked about this, it was like my story, how I got started, very similar. My cousin, who I'm partnered with in real estate stuff, he'd been going to a trainer for like a year and a half, and he kept like, Yaden, you ought to work with it. You ought to, come see Brian, name of the trainer. Like, yeah, I will. Finally, Jennings took the initiative and started a 3-way text. Brian, meet Yaden. Yaden, this is Brian. Yaden wants to work with you. I'm like, okay, he's not wrong. Let's go. So I've been lifting weights, strength training for about 4 years now. I don't know if that qualifies as many, but it's at least several. It's at least several years. Been strength training for 4 years now. Really focused on building lean muscle. That's my focus. From everything that I read, all the studies that come out, like building lean muscle mass is one of the best things that you can do for your health long term. And man, I have seen this in my own life. My father, who is 78, is he 78? Something like that, 78. I think, I'm pretty sure he's 78, maybe 75. Can't exactly remember. But last year he had quintuple bypass surgery. And after the surgery, right, he couldn't use his arms. He wasn't allowed to use his arms for like a month. But because he had been strength training, he was able to sit down and stand up without any assistance, just with his legs on the toilet. And listeners out there, this is something I learned at some point. I forget when I learned it, but one of the biggest reasons why elderly go into assisted living is because they don't have the muscle strength to actually sit down and stand up on the bathroom, go to the bathroom by themselves. That's one reason why people go into assisted living. So I've been very intentional about building muscle for strength and being strong. And I'm working with a trainer for 4 years. At some point, I've gone through some iterations. At one point, I was trying to join the 1,000-pound club, which is 1,000 pounds of weight combined with bench press, squat, and deadlift. and not to brag, but I'm gonna brag just a little bit. I got over 900 pounds. My bench press got to 270. My deadlift, I got to 385. And my squat, I think I got to 305. Maybe, I think 315. I think I had 3 plates on the squat. So I was throwing up some respectable numbers combined. I didn't make it to the 1,000-pound club. I don't think those numbers add up to 1,000 pounds. Maybe I got 355 on deadlift. I was close. I was in the 900s. And then OLD syndrome hits. I'm 45. So, something gets pulled, something gets tweaked. It's like, so now I'm really not focused on how much I can lift. I'm not trying to go up in weight every single week. I'm still trying to build my lean muscle mass, but my goals have shifted. I'm not targeting the 1,000-pound club right now. And just in the past week, 2 weeks, working with the trainer, things have shifted. And I was just lifting today, right? I just went to a session, had to rearrange my schedule this week. So normally I lift Tuesdays and Thursdays, but today's Wednesday, went and lifted, pull day. And the focus now is like time under pressure instead of how much weight am I lifting, right? And think about it like this, right? So if you're watching on video, this is easy. If you're listening, just picture this, right? So doing an overhead press, right? Shoulder press with your arm, right? You push up and you come back down. Real easy. Well, before I trained, not bad to train, but like, up, down, slow, little pause, back up, down, slow, little pause, back up, right? Focusing on controlling the negative, going down slow, and then powering through on the drive. And there's a little pause at the bottom of the lift.
They're the worst.
And at the top of the lift, right? Well, now my trainer's like, hey, we're not pausing. This is constant motion. And the way I picture it, it's like a hydraulic press, right? Where think of driving a car and you have a glass of water on the dashboard and you're trying to accelerate very smoothly and brake very smoothly so you don't spill the water, right? No jerky motions, no abrupt changes, just slow pressure up and then slow pressure down. And when you get to the bottom, it's like slow pressure up. So your muscle is under tension nonstop each set. Right. And you've lifted, right? You think about if you're doing bench press with dumbbells or a barbell or something, right? It's like, okay, right? Barbell comes down, pause, right? There's not a whole lot of tension. It's like a little break. And then you push back up and then there's another little break. Well, if it's just half a second each rep and you're doing 10 reps, that's 10 seconds of tension you're missing out on.
Yeah.
And you add that up over the life of lifting for a year, you're missing out on growth. You're missing out on growth. And you're also, just the forces of moving weight around puts a lot of strain on your tendons, on your joints, those shearing forces, lateral movements. But man, you want to talk about like intense and painful? I cannot, my reps have gone down where before I was doing, 3 work sets at 10 to 12 reps. Now I'm doing 3 work sets at, first set is maybe 10, second set is maybe 8, third set is maybe 6, because the muscle is it's under constant pressure. Yeah.
So I'm curious, is this modification in response to you hitting kind of a plateau, or is it in anticipation of a plateau? Like what's the adjustment about?
So the adjustment here is we're lifting for strength. Well, I don't know if it's an adjustment because mentally I was already there.
Yeah.
Right. The adjustment is this is going to put less strain on my joints over time, less strain. and I'm really isolating the muscle, really forcing the muscle to grow. And it's more efficient. I'm putting more pressure on the muscle I'm putting the same amount of tension on the muscle with fewer reps. Right? It's like if you out there listening, and Matt, here's a challenge, right? How long can you drag out a single push-up? Right? Someone's like, bro, I can crank out 50 push-ups in a minute. Like, that's cool. Can you expand one push-up over an entire minute?
Right.
Try that.
Yeah.
Right? Because every time you do a rep, there's a little break in the pressure on tension. But if you're just slow going down, and honestly, so it gives me less strain on my joints, but also it's this mental shift. I'm not training for ego. It's like you can't train for ego this way because you're not going to be able to lift as much because your muscle is constantly under pressure. There's no break. Your muscle gets to exhaustion a lot faster. Right? Try this next time you're in the gym. When you're doing curls, right, with whatever you curl with, right? It's like down, up, down, just like a hydraulic press, moving slow and steady. Slow and steady. It's brutal. It's brutal. I'm doing squats. I'm doing dumbbell presses, doing curls, doing everything I'm doing now is excruciatingly slow, and the pressure on the muscle like increases exponentially with every set. It is ridiculously intense. But the cool thing is the muscles are still growing. Even though the weight is lighter or the reps are less, I still get the benefit of the growth. I don't have to do as many reps. The reps are more intense. And that is how it connects to recovery.
That's my question.
Right? I knew the question was coming. So here's how, right? With my muscles, I'm not training for ego. I'm training for force production. Right? If you're doing an overhead press, I'm using overhead press because of how our video is. It's easy to visualize, right? Overhead press, right, is like your arms are down here in the locked and loaded position. You like take a deep breath, like, and then power them up, right? Well, that's good, but you got some momentum going along the way that helps the weight get all the way to the top. When you're going slow, there is zero momentum.
That makes sense.
It's just solid pressure, solid force all the way to the top and then all the way back down. And one, it's an ego shift because it doesn't feel as cool. It also is an ego shift because like, man, I can only do 6 reps when I used to be able to do 12. And with recovery, growth as a recovered dad, growth as a father, growth recovering from getting freedom in life, growth requires tension. Requires this tension, this building of these emotional muscles, building of these mental muscles, right? Listeners out there, if you've been listening for a while, you've heard us say this. If you're new to the podcast, buckle up, right? Right? Because we talk about, but the reality is addiction, consumption, it's not about sex. It's not about lust. It's about pain. We have pain, and porn is the coping mechanism we use. Porn is the pain pill that we use to cope with life. Because our coping mechanism is weak. You know, nobody trains you when you're growing up. Nobody teaches you, oh, hey, here's healthy coping mechanisms. I mean, we all kind of think we got them by just osmosis, but I don't know about y'all out there. Didn't happen to me. Coping mechanisms I got dealt in my deck of cards for life. I'm like, oh, that's my big coping mechanism. And finally, in my early 40s, when I jumped into the Liberation Boot Camp, like, oh, this is a coping mechanism and I can fix this. I can figure this out. I'm not broken. I'm not depraved. I'm not a monster. I'm not a pervert. I've been using this as a coping mechanism my whole life. And building the tools and skills to go at life with healthy coping mechanisms, healthy skills. So enough on that. But so it's like, not enough on that because that's really what we're talking about today.
Good stuff, yeah.
Growth requires tension. So with recovery work, it's all about not running away from our own internal turmoil, right? When the story in our head spins up, and if you're a father, the story that spins up for fathers most of the time is, I'm taken for granted. My family doesn't appreciate me. My wife doesn't love, my wife doesn't want me. I'm unloved. I'm undesired. I'm just, nobody sees what I'm doing and it's painful. Nobody understands the pressure I feel carrying the weight of this family forward. Nobody appreciates how hard I'm pushing to move life where it needs to go for this family that I love so much. And when the emotional pain comes up, we reach for the pain pill. Yeah.
One caveat is like, I think the pain is probably a fundamental piece of the equation. And for all those maybe listening, maybe it's like, maybe you relate to the pain piece, and maybe just to like illuminate further, like we look at this HALT, spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're just stressed out. Maybe you're just tired. Maybe there's just no one in your life that you really are able to have meaningful connection with. So there's some other pressures or pains or discomforts that might not show up just in the form of sheer neglect, for instance. I think important to illuminate that as well. Yeah.
So that pain comes up, the story in our head starts spinning, and we reach for the coping mechanism that we know will give us a moment of peace. And it's so insidious because one of the biggest problems with porn is it almost works.
Yeah.
It almost works. But then we have the side effects and the guilt, the fear, the shame. It all rushes back in. Mm-hmm. And with strength training and with recovery, right? It's like, if you're focused on your rep and going slow and really letting the muscles sit in the tension, I'll tell you what you're not doing. You're not checking boxes, right?
Yeah.
You're not just like, okay, yeah, I got a workout in, I'm good.
It's like intentionality.
Right. There is intention behind that. And Matt, as you continue lifting, you'll see it. Like now, when I go to a public gym, I look around, I'm like, oh, that dude does not know what he's doing.
Yeah.
I'm glad that he's here. Kudos to him for coming to the gym. But it's like, bro, you should not be bench pressing that fast. Yeah. You're going to hurt yourself. Mm-hmm. Right? Just cranking out the waves like, whoo, 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 whoo. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
You're just there checking boxes. And with recovery work, it's kind of the same thing where we have to be intentional. We have to slow down, be intentional, not just like we talk about the core four a lot, daily practice of recovery that we have in Recovered Dad community, where journaling, exercise, meditation, and reading.
Yeah.
And actually coming clean. Yesterday, I missed my core four. I missed 2 of the core 4 because it got to the end of the day. It slipped my mind, forgot about it. And what I've learned is if I'm not intentional with my recovery, it slips. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, there are some days where it's like, you know what? The minimum viable product I can do, I can meditate for 1 minute today. But I have intention around it. It's like I am taking it seriously. Getting in a rep when I notice some turmoil, some stress, whether it's with business, with my family, with my kids, with my wife, with whatever's going on, my extended family, they're like, okay, this is my opportunity to get a rep in with this recovery work. Be like, I notice these uncomfortable emotions. what's really there. What's really there. The other day, having a conversation with my wife, and she's like, "Are you okay? How you doing?" I'm like, I feel disconnected. That's what I feel. I feel disconnected, which in the halt analogy, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, right? I felt lonely. I felt disconnected.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what I'm noticing. It's an uncomfortable emotion. And now I'm at a place in my life where I can verbalize that with my wife. A couple of years ago, I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just tired." Roll over and go to sleep in a cloud of darkness. Right? And out there, I know you're laughing, Matt, but like, don't pretend you don't know what I'm talking about. And listeners out there, I know you know what I'm talking about. And my wife was like, "Bro, don't bullshit me. I know you're not okay."
Right.
I was asking just to give you an opportunity to, own up to it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fine. So what I want to really drive home is it's the intentionality. It's slowing down. This is not about ego, right? This is not about you're not in recovery for your ego. You're in recovery for force generation, for being able to sit with the uncomfortableness. And honestly, I think about that when I'm under pressure in the weights. I'm like, this is excruciatingly uncomfortable. And I can do one more rep. And if I don't, I'm not going to get the growth that I want. I'm not going to get the muscle. I'm not going to get the strength that I want. Sitting with that and be like, this is not fun.
Yeah.
But I'm going to sit here for one more rep.
I gotta, I think this draws a correlation to the big picture. I think a lot of men come into this community, come into this work, a lot of men with the problem of dopamine, reaching for the pain pills, whatever it may be in modern day society. And there's a theme of being burnout, rushing around, minimal volume product, checking the boxes. It's because there's a lot of pressure on all of us. Life's challenging, and especially as a father running around and just just trying to keep up. A lot of us are running at a very high RPM, and I think there's probably a theme of just minimum viable product across our life. And one of the I think key elements to what we are practicing here as a community is learning to slow down. Just like when you first came in, you always talked about meditation, being like, no, after a while, I think it sounds like things begin to click and you begin to recognize the value of slowing down. Paying attention and intentionality, and so I think that's a lot of the gift we can help offer, or the idea we can help offer is it's about slowing down. It's not about just coming into the gym and busting out 100 reps. It's about slowing down, right? Which is what we're practicing here, and allowing the RPMs to come down a little bit, so we're not running at 1,000 all the time or 8,000 all the time. Slowing down is part of this recalibration we're doing here as a community. And
on the slowing down, it's like that's something that you have to practice. Slowing down. It's something you have to practice, right? It's like, I'm going to take 5 minutes and I'm going to practice being slow.
Yep.
I'm going to practice this awareness and getting in reps. And just like training, moving logs out at my dad's farmland when we're splitting wood for firewood, that's not training. It's exercise, but it's not training. I train in the gym so that when I'm out in the field and I need muscle, I have it.
Yeah.
Right? I train in the gym. So like the other day, my boys and I, we were doing some paint work, and I was in this horse stance squat position, just kind of crab walking side to side. The next day, not sore at all, because I have put in the reps training so that when I need strength in real life, it's there.
Yep.
And with this emotional uncomfortableness, with the awareness, that's something that we have to train, not in real life. We have to have a training system and slow down and be like, I'm going to practice getting a rep in. And the flag to indicate, hey, I need to slow down. I need to take a rep. That when our emotions flare up, that's an indication. Hey, this is your opportunity to get a rep in.
Yep. Core 4, man. That's the daily system, man. The daily practice of putting ourselves under pressure, under tension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like muscle takes time to build, I've been lifting for 4 years, focusing on building strength and building muscle for 4 years. I've also been focused on recovery now for almost 4 years. And just like there's no shortcut to build muscle, it takes time and focus. To build recovery takes time and focus. How do you get 1,000 days of recovery? You can't get it in a year, right? You can't, there's no shortcut to 1,000 days. It's going to take 1,000 days to get there. There's no shortcut to 100 days. You can't do it in 10. It's one day at a time, one rep at a time, building that awareness muscle, building that emotional intelligence to sit with the uncomfortableness and not react and not reach for the pain pill. You can build it one rep at a time, one emotional flare up, uncomfortable sit with at a time, one comfortable moment sat through at a time, one urge resisted at a time. That's how we build these this awareness muscle, this recovery muscle.
Really good. Really good.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Really good. Appreciate you bringing your real life, experiences here, and we get to come mine the gold and extract the lessons, and definitely relevant. And thank you. And thank you, brothers, for tuning in here today.
Fellas, thanks for being here. Check us out online.
Yes.
For more information, therecovereddad.com. You can get over there. You can download our Father's Freedom Framework, which can kickstart your journey for recovery, whether you're dealing with porn or anything else, right? The recovery steps can apply, can help. Your family is worth it, Dad, out there. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see y'all on the next episode.
Thank you, brothers. Peace. Power.
Power.
Noble men. Thanks, guys.
Noble men.